In 3, 2, 1.
From New York to Hollywood, London to Chicago, over the years I've interviewed some of the biggest stars, gone behind the scenes of the hottest shows, and had rare access to royal insiders. Join me as we open the WFTV archives and take a step back in time. This is the Video Vault. Hi, I'm Martie Salt. In this episode of Video Vault, daytime talk shows ruled the 1980s, and there were a lot of them, each focusing on stories of tragedy, triumph, and sometimes the downright bizarre. In 1987, Geraldo Rivera hit the airwaves with his version of what some critics called trash TV. I spent the day with Geraldo in New York to find out how he went from an edgy reporter for ABC News to daytime talk. So let's open the Video Vault, the year 1988.
Here we go, roll the record. Stand by, come up in front. 4, 3, cue the applause.
Millions of women have dreamt of being in the army.
It's 4 p.m. Geraldo Rivera is taping the first of 2 shows he'll do today. The subject is Scandalous Women. Guests include Strumpet with a Trumpet Roxanne Pulitzer and striptease queen Tempest Storm. Scandalous Women turns out to be a lively exchange, with some of these ladies dropping famous names in their toss and tumble world of bedroom partners. Geraldo looks like he enjoys the gossip, pleads for more details. But are the sex lives of these lovely ladies with lurid pasts what Geraldo really talks about best? Do you ever think any of the topics are silly?
I thought that the 10 hot hunks of daytime was really silly. And we also did UFO abductions, you know, being sexually molested by aliens. That was pretty silly. It's funny, I have, for the first time, a program that basically is designed for and is being watched by young women in large measure. And I don't consider myself an expert into what young women are into these days. My staff, as you've seen, you know, Bonnie Kaplan, the executive producer, my 4 producers are all women, and they have, so I don't insist that I have the last word on all topics. I really have to let the gals tell me sometimes.
It's about trying to win the drug wars. It's about parents against the pushers on this edition of Geraldo.
When this program that pitted parents of drug-addicted children against convicted drug pushers aired 6 weeks ago, it was the highest-rated Geraldo yet, and it represented the kind of program that distinguishes the ex-ABC newsman from the competition.
So that was a perfect blend of my strength as a reporter and the making it a family-type topic for this program, and it really worked very well. I'm going to do more of that, I think.
Unlike other talk shows, each Geraldo program begins with a report to set the stage for the topic. But the second major difference between Geraldo and competitors is quite obviously the host.
Phil, Oprah, and I are very different people. We come from different places, we have different bundles of personal experiences, we have different points of view about issues. And I think the fact that all 3 programs are prospering now is evidence of the fact that the programs are different enough and they touch different enough bases and different enough audiences that there's plenty out there for everyone.
Geraldo Rivera didn't start out to become a television reporter or a show host. He was a New York legal aid lawyer in 1970 when he happened to be interviewed by the Today Show. The news director from the local ABC station spotted him and offered him a job. Since then, his sometimes untraditional style of reporting has taken him around the world, allowed him to meet some of the rich and famous, and in the process, pick up over 150 awards. His 15-year association with ABC ended abruptly in 1985 in the midst of a flap over another correspondent's story the network refused to run. Geraldo's vocal and public opposition left him at 42, unemployed and unsure of what would happen next.
I took my boat and I sailed from New York to Florida to Cuba, all through Central America, the Panama Canal,
and that was just,
up the
what
coast
was
of
that,
Mexico.
think time?
Think time, and just reassessing not only my own recklessness, but what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And it was my midlife crisis in a very real way.
He was off the air for months, but then an unexpected opportunity beckoned.
The mystery of Al Capone's vaults.
You know, when we began opening this vault nearly 2 hours ago, we had no real idea what we'd find inside. As it turns out, we haven't found very much, at least.
What happened with Al Capone?
Al didn't show up. And I thought the least likely possibility was that there would be nothing. And I said, I couldn't miss. And he said, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Joe Louis after he retired from boxing, becoming a professional wrestler. He said, you're demeaning yourself, you're lowering yourself. And I said, listen, it's not like they're knocking down my door with job offers. So I did it, and you know the way it ended, and I was embarrassed, and I was disappointed, and you know, I wanted to hide in the hole that I dug. But then people forgave me.
Bust or no bust, Al Capone turned out to be the highest-rated syndicated program ever, and it led to other job opportunities, including the talk show and investigative news specials. Does the criticism still sting, or has it, or have you reached a point where you figure, well, it's going to be there no matter what, they're going to say certain things, and that'll just stay with me?
It's funny, at this point, in success, it's easier for me to be understanding even of the critics. If I was a failure, and I'd say, oh God, they drove me out of the business, that would be different. But it's easy for me to be even-handed now.
Now, months after that interview, another infamous Geraldo show. A brawl broke out on set during taping, and Geraldo ended up with a broken nose. His show was canceled in 1998. He then returned to his roots in TV news and is now a contributor on the Fox News Channel. There's more to come, from tabloid topics to motivational speaking, how Montel Williams made his way into the talk show lineup.
The Video Vault continues with Martie Salt.
Welcome back. Montel Williams joined Daytime Talk in 1991, but unlike all the other hosts we're profiling here, Montel did not come to TV with a broadcasting background. I found out how he got his break when he visited the Channel 9 studios in 1992.
You know, you have an incredible background because 15 years you were in the military, in the Navy, and then now you have your own talk show.
I'm still in the military now as we speak, which is kind of crazy. I'm a reservist. I'm a lieutenant commander in the reserve.
Could they call you up? And
no, I think not. I haven't. I haven't stayed current. No, I'm in the inactive ready reserve, so I'm not an active participant in the weekend programs. But I think for them to get to me, they'd probably be calling you.
Is that right? Yeah. Do you miss the military at all?
I do. I mean, it really, there are times that it flashes by. There's a certain structure and a certain comfort zone in the military that I don't think you get anywhere else. And the camaraderie there, I miss.
Did you like the discipline?
I love the discipline. I love the discipline. I love the you know, some of my best friends for the rest of my life are still on active duty.
How did that prepare you for what you're doing now, including the discipline?
I think not in the least.
Is that right?
No, I mean, it's really funny. I served as a special intelligence officer, a cryptologic officer for the Navy. And I think one of the things that I was able to do during that period of time was I did a lot of briefing. So to be in front of audiences or be in front of large gatherings was not that hard, but that really wasn't what prepared me for the show. It was when I started doing motivational speaking across the country. And
you were doing that to what, college, high school students?
College, high school. As a matter of fact, I spoke to 3 million kids in less than 3 years, and that was from every place from like Tampa, Florida to Washington State, and from Southern California to New York City over a 3-year period of time. And I started a nonprofit organization called Reach the American Dream, where that helped to facilitate those presentations, and it did very well. And that's really how this all came about, because
somebody spot you?
No, as a matter of fact, I ended up kind of by the seat of my pants learning how to produce some programming and learning how to be involved in programming, because I was in front of the camera so much. Every time I would go to a city to do an event, it became a media event. Like I would go to a high school in a local market and speak to 6,000 students. They would bus all the kids together for me to be there. So live at 5, live at 12, live at noon would all be there. Then I would do a guest spot on a local public affairs program. Then I was being asked to guest host local public affairs programs. And I did one in Denver, Colorado called The 4th R Kids Rap About Racism, and I won an Emmy as a talk show host, and that was really the genesis of the show.
Well, with the show now, what do you have a goal for your show, Montel? I mean, is there you know, a message you want to get across? You spoke to students to deliver a motivational message. With the show, is this an outlet for something for you?
It is. I think, you know, first thing and most important, television talk shows are entertainment, and anybody who tells you any differently is lying to you. But the truth of the matter is, I think that you can also provide information, you can be helpful, you can also teach people things, and none of that is mutually exclusive. And so what we try to do is we try to entertain you, but at the same time that we entertain you during a given week, I'm going to give you something that's going to open you up and make you think. And then maybe the next day I'm going to give you something that's going to really help you learn something about the life around you and about your family and about communication skills between, let's say, your spouse or your kids.
Done a good job so far.
Well,
It's doing
thank you.
great here.
Thank you. I think we've done some things
Yeah.
in the last year that have kind of set the trend for what other talk shows are after. I mean, in 1 year, this was our first year national, and since September 21st, we've done maybe 25 shows, 27 shows on issues with kids and parents
Yeah.
and communication. And we're like one of the only people out there doing that, and specifically doing it that way with kids in the audience. So
Right.
it's working.
Good. Montel, nice to meet
Oh,
you.
nice
Good to
meeting
have you
you.
here.
Thanks for having me.
We are just talking about, we graduated the same year in high school.
So
We have a
we're not
reunion coming
talking
up.
about that. We're not talking
Right.
about that. No, so you graduated when you were 16.
Yeah,
15,
right, okay, yeah, right.
I
Okay,
graduated
thanks,
when I was
Montel.
13.
Okay,
13
good
years
deal,
old.
Lucille.
I'm the younger of the two.
Today, Montel is active with the Montel Williams MS Foundation, which he founded after being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 1999. Up next, recognize this guy? It's Larry King when he was a South Florida TV personality, long before he gained international prominence. We'll hear from him when Video Vault continues.
The Video Vault continues with Martie Salt.
Larry King is arguably one of the best-known interviewers on American television. For 25 years, he hosted Larry King Live on CNN, where he seemingly interviewed everyone from authors and movie stars to political figures and world leaders. But his roots were in Miami radio and TV, and that's where I watched him as a kid. So because of that, I was really excited to chat with him a few minutes in 1991.
I read where you kind of prepare for interviews by not preparing, that you really don't like to go see movies that actors are in or necessarily read books and all. I mean, how do you go about, I mean, you don't just show up, do you?
Well, I show up. You know, in fact, I was saying the other day, I'd like to do a show someday where the curtain opens and I don't know who the guest is till they come on. And I like that a lot, by the way, because I like surprise and I'm very curious. My preparation is sort of life. You know, I read my newspapers. I'm very well aware of what's going on in life and in the world, and I'm intensely curious about everything. But the answer is no, I would not want to see the movie or read the book, because then I'm not curious about the book. And for me to be curious, and I won't recommend this to everyone, for me to be curious, I have to not know the answer.
Right. We have about a minute left, so not a whole lot of time. And I mentioned before at the beginning, I remember I was a little kid and I grew up in Miami, and I remember on WTVJ, News Weekend with Larry King. You know, you really are a survivor. I mean, so much has happened then, because you went from Miami, you used to write a column for the Miami Herald, the Miami News. You went from that, you know, to radio. You've been bankrupt a couple of times. You've had a heart attack. You really are a survivor.
Yeah, I've been bankrupt once.
Bankrupt once.
Thank God, changed from that. Yeah, I guess I am. I'm a survivor. I'm a kid from Brooklyn who was given some native talent, the talent of curiosity. The rest of it I worked with. I had ups and downs. Florida was my beginnings. I have a warm place for Miami. I go back every year to South Florida as much as I can. I don't know how to explain surviving, because when you live your own life, it's very hard to take a step back and look at it. I've never felt better than I have right now. I've never attained more. I've attained much more than I ever thought I'd attain. I could have gotten it sooner, probably, had I lived a little differently. But we all pay a price in some way. All we can look at is today. Can't do anything about yesterday.
No, we can't. Larry King, I'm sorry we're out of time, because I sure would enjoy talking with you a lot more.
Anytime, Marty.
Well,
Except don't tell me you were a kid when I was on television, Marty.
Do I not win friends? I don't win friends that way when I tell them that, do I?
It was during Larry's Miami days in the 1960s that he became good friends with Jessy Raphael, who was also gaining ground in South Florida radio. By the time I met her, she had moved on to national TV, but it was a turbulent ride getting there. She talks about how many times she was fired, just ahead on Video Vault.
The Video Vault continues with Martie Salt.
You know her by those trademark red-framed glasses. Jessy Raphael joined the elite club of TV talk show hosts in 1983. Sally was considered a pioneer for women in the talk show industry, helping pave the way for the likes of Oprah, who debuted a year later. I paid Sally a visit on her set in St. Louis in 1985.
I do it just because it's fun.
Then go out and find another man and get nude.
Let me show you something.
I'm Jessy Raphael. This is Talk. Why don't we just go do it?
She's savvy, she's sensitive, she's sassy, she's Jessy Raphael, and she's the latest, brightest thing to hit the television talk show circuit in years.
You see, people who come to television programs are like people who do television programs. They're abnormal.
Wait a minute. That's it, Warren. You talk about abnormality. You with your fat face and your fat body. Do you mean it?
Yes, I do.
Why are you angry with Billy Crystal?
Because he's doing me 20 years ago. He's not doing me now.
What's different?
All of the theatricality, most of it is gone. That whole thing about, hey, baby, peace and love, right on, Jim, and all that.
You really are angry at
Yes, I am. I wouldn't have brought it up if I wasn't telling the truth.
It's a Monday morning, and inside this St. Louis TV station, Sally Jessy Raphael is in the makeup room, being briefed by one of several producers about the show she'll tape in just about 30 minutes. The subject today is female egos, and the guest is an author on the topic.
Yeah, I think it's a terribly, terribly important show. I think it's good. Because it sums up an awful lot of the things that we hear as a problem. The Superwoman thing, I'm trying to do too much.
Yeah. And she talks about that.
The success, fear of success.
Minutes later, Sally is on the air, meeting her audience and guest for the first time. Her job, and indeed her forte, is to make people feel better about themselves, particularly women. Television is her latest tool. You've been very successful on radio, but now you are launching this television show. Is this where you're going to really be able to show off Sally Jessy Raphael? Is this where you're really going to be able to show your talents?
The great thing about this show is nobody said, look, we're going to do a television show here that informs. And yet, nobody said, we're never going to inform. So we've got a whole part of us that wants to be the teacher, that is the mommy in me. I am the mommy and the teacher, and that part of Sally we're going to do. And then we get a whole part that says, look, this is entertainment. People are not supposed to sit there being given life lessons. They're supposed to have fun. So we're allowed to do that. Most television shows, what they want is predictability, Marty. They just want, and we will look the same, and we will do it the same, and we are going to, even like a game show where every day you have the predictability of this is what's going to happen. Well, with us, there's no predictability whatsoever.
You promise that won't happen. No,
I promise you that you'll love some of them and you'll hate some of them, and some of them will get you angry, and some of them I hope won't bore you. I hope you won't be bored, because we won't be around long enough to bore you.
Sally is, in one word, a survivor. She began her broadcasting career when she was a teenager in Puerto Rico. That was some 20 years ago, and since then, she's been working in some television, but mostly radio. She's had more jobs than she cares to remember, and she's been fired 18 times.
They don't know about the times that most of my life I have been fired. You are...
How many jobs has it been?
18.
18 jobs you were fired
Yeah, the other day I was telling somebody I was fired 15, and a smart aleck friend of mine says, come on, that's for the publicity, isn't it? And I said, let's go over the call letters of the stations. And we edited it up, and it was 18. I felt worse. I said, here, I only thought I was fired 15 times, you idiot, you made me feel terrible. And that's rejection, because it isn't that we're changing the company, it's you're no good, Marty. Go. We don't like you. America doesn't want you. Goodbye. I mean,
that's what you had to live with every
you
time
live
for
with
18
that
times?
18. When a performer is fired, they're fired because they're no good.
If it were in any other business besides broadcasting, it would be unusual that she's had that many jobs. And it was when she landed the job as host of NBC Radio's TalkNet program 3 years ago that she really gained national attention.
Hello and welcome. My name is Sally Jessy Raphael. How nice to have you come and join us. You have just landed on the good ship TalkNet. Well,
in addition to her syndicated television show, Sally is in front of this radio microphone 5 nights a week, talking about what she talks about best: love, sex, romance, and marriage.
Is that where you are at now?
Yeah, I'm looking for the same thing, and I just can't seem to find it in anybody else.
Because there is never any love that is the same. They're all different, and they should be. There's never better or worse, by the way. There's just different. You're looking for better or the same, and it won't. It'll just be different.
Have you had a lot of their problems? A lot of the problems that people call about?
Yeah. Okay,
like
now
what?
have I had a lot of experiences? Absolutely, I've had a lot of experiences.
Are you a psychologist?
No! Oh, no. I'm not an expert in
How
anything.
do you answer these people?
Same-
Because they eat it up. People, the audience eats it up.
Same way you'd answer them. I'm a friend who lives next door, and if you came in and said, what do you think of this dress on me? Should I wear this color? I'd tell you what I thought. If you'd say, I want to buy my husband a gift, I'd tell you what I thought he might like. I haven't lived in one house on one street in one town doing one thing. But then again, remember that some of our major poets lived in one room in one house in one town. So maybe you can't correlate movement with experience, because one can see supposedly the universe in the microcosm on the head of a pin. However, the lessons that I've learned were life lessons, and an awful lot of things have happened to me.
You have had.
I have been.
You've been through more jobs
I've
than
been
I would.
so rejected, and so broke, and so down and out, and so insecure, and
Insecure?
Oh, in such trouble, and making so many mistakes. I tell people when they say, why do you talk about love? Are you an authority in it? I said, only an authority insofar as I have really loved badly.
That was before meeting her husband of 20 years, Carl Soderlund, who has worked with her as personal manager all of those years. He says she's an expert on love, sex, romance, and marriage, and that's the formula for her television show.
Let's have love and sex and the better way and romance and marriage and fun and learning and growing and being better and more faith. Let's have all that. Yeah.
Now, do you think the audience is ever going to get tired of that? Or, I mean, can America ever have too much love, sex, marriage, and romance?
Nope. Nope. Or faith? Nope. Nope. Can you have too much of anything that's really great? If it's really great, no. Only the things that aren't really great can you have too much of.
After her TV show was canceled in 2002, Sally Jessy Raphael hosted a daily radio show from 2005 to 2008. So there was a lot of talk going on in the 1980s, and just a few of those tabloid shows remain on the air today. Well, that wraps up this edition of the Video Vault. Until next time, I'm Martie Salt, signing off.